The code for Unit 314 was entered at 4:47 in the morning. That was the third time that week. I told myself it was none of my business. A woman was living inside that storage unit, and in 9 days the company was going to auction everything she owned to the highest bidder. What I did not know yet was who had already registered to bid. The beeper on my nightstand chirped twice, and I was awake before the second one finished. Diesel lifted his head off the floor and groaned at me like I had personally invented mornings. "Don't start," I told him. "You heard it too." The keypad log was already up on the office monitor by the time I got my boots on. Gate opened 4:47, code ending in 914. Renata Kowalczyk, Unit 314, paid in cash, 6 weeks running. I stood there in a shop coat over my sleep clothes and watched that little orange line of light under her roll-up door. It should not have been there. Nobody's belongings glow at 5 in the morning. 31 years, I said to the dog. 31 years I have never once knocked on a door I wasn't invited to. Diesel put his chin back down. At 6:30, Ruth Ann Pettyjohn came through the gate in her Buick like the pavement had insulted her. She is 74, she rents Unit 88, and she has never once come to that yard without something to say. "Walter," she shut her car door with her hip. "Your light on row 3 is buzzing. It sounds like a wasp having a stroke." "I'll get a ladder." "You said that in September." "I said it in August too. I'm consistent." She laughed, then squinted down the row toward 314, and her face changed. "Is somebody in there?" My heart did something small and unpleasant. "Where?" "Down there. I've seen a car parked crooked by that door twice this month. A white Corolla with a bad bumper." She lowered her voice like the gateposts were listening. "Walter, is somebody living in your storage? People leave lights on. Lights don't fold laundry, honey." I laughed because I did not have anything better. She patted my arm on her way to her unit, and I stood in the cold with my ears burning. The office phone rang at 10. Marla Sipes, Regional Coordinator, second cup of coffee voice. "Walt, delinquency list. You've got 4 units past due and one that's about to get ugly." 314. 314, she agreed. "Kowalczyk, 2 payments behind. You know how this goes." "Tell me anyway. I want to hear you say it out loud." She sighed. "Fine. Nevada lien law. The second a tenant defaults, this facility has a lien on everything inside that unit. We mail her notice, we run an ad in the legal section of the paper, and after the waiting period runs out, we sell the contents at public auction. Anybody with a bidder number can walk in and bid on it. And that's already been advertised. Ran in the paper end of last month. That part's done, Walt. That clock's been running." My throat felt tight. "And the date? 16th, Sunday, 10 in the morning. That's 9 days, so if she's going to pay, she needs to pay. And if she comes in with half doesn't stop a lien sale. Full balance plus fees or the door comes up." Marla paused. "Why? You getting soft on me?" "I'm 57, I got soft years ago." "Uh-huh." I could hear her typing. "Post the notice today so we're covered. And Walt, do not let anybody sleep in a unit. That's not me being mean. That's insurance." "Understood." I hung up with my hand still resting on the phone and an ache in my chest I did not have a name for. My cell buzzed at 2:20. The number came up and every muscle in my back locked. I let it ring 4 times, then 5. Then it stopped. "Nope," I said to Diesel. "Not today." He thumped his tail once, which is how he calls me a coward. I printed the notice. I walked it down row 3. I got to that orange door holding a piece of paper that would tell a woman strangers were going to paw through everything she had left, and I could not make my hand tape it up. A chair creaked inside. One small sound, and then whoever was in there stopped moving so completely that the stopping was louder than the noise. "Ma'am," I said to the door. My voice came out rough. "I'm not going to knock." Nothing. "There's a notice. I'm putting it under the door instead of on it because a paper on a door is something the whole yard can read, and a paper under a door is between you and me." I slid it through the gap and walked away. Back in the office, I made a full pot of coffee I did not want. Then I did the thing I have thought about every day since. I filled a steel thermos, took the wool blanket off the back of my own chair, carried both down row 3, set them in front of Unit 314, and left without a word. Diesel got me up at 4. The desert had frozen hard overnight, and the gravel cracked like knuckles under my boots. The thermos was empty. The blanket was folded into a perfect square corner sharp as a hospital bed. And under the blanket there was a piece of paper folded twice. My hands were shaking when I opened it. and I would like to tell you that was the cold. 6 words in careful nurse handwriting. Please do not report me. I have 9 days. I read those 6 words maybe 40 times before the sun came up, and then I did the one thing I had promised myself I would not do. I knocked. The door came up 18 inches and stopped. A flashlight beam hit my chest. You're here to throw me out. Her voice was steady, but the light was jumping all over my shop coat. Say it fast. I hate the part where people work up to it. I'm here about the thermos. The beam dropped. What? You washed it. Nobody washes a thermos they're planning to keep. The door rattled up the rest of the way. Renata Vaughn stood there in hospital scrubs and a parka hair pulled back so tight it looked like it hurt, and her chin was trembling in a way she clearly hated. Renata Kowalczyk, she said. On the contract. Walt Bergstrom. On the paycheck. Behind her, the unit was 10 by 10 and stacked to the ceiling with cardboard, a folding cot, a camping lantern, and one small steel box sitting up top by itself like it had been given its own chair. Ma'am, are you sleeping in here? Her eyes filled instantly. She blinked hard and looked at the ceiling. Is that a question or a report? It's a question. Then yes. Her voice cracked straight down the middle. 6 weeks. I shower at the hospital. I eat at the hospital. I am a surgical nurse with 14 years in an operating room, and I sleep in a metal box. And if you want to watch me fall apart over it, congratulations, you're about 11 seconds early. Why 4:47? What? 3 times this week. Same window, give or take a minute. That's not a coincidence, that's a schedule. Her mouth twisted and something behind her eyes just gave out. Because at 4:47 there is nobody in this yard. No tenants, no trucks. Nobody at that gate wondering why a woman in scrubs is carrying a grocery bag into a storage unit at night. She pulled the parka tighter around herself. I get off at 11. I sit in the hospital parking garage for 5 hours, Walt. 5 hours every shift waiting for it to be late enough that no one will see me come home. Rennie, that's my routine now. She laughed and it came out in pieces. That's the routine I have. Marla says full balance or the sale happens. I can't move that. I need you to know I'm not the one who set that date. I know exactly who said it. Her jaw tightened. I've read the statute 4 times. I know what a lien sale is better than you do. Then help me understand something. I put my hands in my pockets so she could see they were empty. You're a surgical nurse, 21 years married to a man with 3 dental practices. How does that end with you 2 payments behind? That is when her legs went. She sat down hard on the edge of the cot and her hands started shaking so badly she pressed them flat against her knees to stop it. He put 2 pieces of paper on the kitchen table, she said. Renata. Rennie, she dragged in a breath. God, nobody's called me Renata since my mother died. Rennie, what paper? One was a property settlement. I sign I walk away from the house, the vehicles, the retirement, all of it. No lawyer, no fight. Her jaw was working. The other was a letter of recommendation to a dental program in Portland with a check clipped to it. 4 years of tuition. For our daughter. For Bryn. My stomach turned over. He didn't threaten me. Her eyes came up red and burning. That's what nobody understands. He slid them across the table. He poured himself a glass of wine and he said, you choose honey, I'm not forcing you. That's forcing you. Try explaining that to a judge. She was crying openly now, angrily, not bothering to hide any of it. I signed the first one. My daughter started that program in August. She thinks her mother is a hoarder who lost her mind and gave away a house. She hasn't called me since Labor Day. Did you tell her? Tell her what? That her father bought her future with my life. Rennie's voice broke apart completely. She's 22. She'd have to hate one of us and I got to pick which one. I sat down on an overturned bucket because my knees were not doing great either. There's duress. There's undue influence. A settlement signed with no attorney gets challenged in this state all the time. With what money? She laughed through the tears. You want to know the trick? He didn't take anything from me. He made sure everybody watched me give it away. You cannot sue a man for being generous in public. Then why the storage? Why not a room somewhere? She went very still, and her eyes flicked up to that steel box on top of the stack half a second, and came right back down. Because everything I own is in here, she said, and in 9 days it belongs to whoever wants it most. 8, I said. It's Saturday. She put both hands over her face and sobbed once hard like something tearing. 31 years of hollering at people about padlocks had not prepared me for a woman coming apart in a 10 by 10. I'll figure something out, Don't. Excuse me. Don't. She looked up wrecked and fierce. Men who want to save me are how I got here. We sat out on the concrete apron with our backs against the doors until almost midnight because neither one of us wanted to be first to go inside. Then headlights came down row 3. They came slow. Not delivery slow. Slow like reading. Rennie's hand shot out and locked around my wrist and her fingers were ice and I could feel her whole arm shaking through them. "That's not him," she whispered. "He drives a gray Suburban. That is not him." The car rolled past 314, never braked, never honked, and slid out the far end of the row. She let go like my wrist had burned her. "I'm sorry, God, I just grabbed you. Don't apologize for that." I got the office open and pulled the gate log up with her breathing hard over my shoulder. "Narrow it," she said. 1140 to right now. 2 entries. Ruth Ann Pettyjohn out 1152, Unit 231 and 1204. That's all of it. That's all of it. And no exit code after that car left the row. I scrolled it twice and my hands were not steady. "Rennie, that gate does not open from the inside without a code. Not for anybody. It logs every single time it moves." "Then how did that car get in here?" "It didn't," I said, and my mouth had gone dry. It was already inside. There are 2 kinds of people who rent a storage unit. People hiding valuables and people hiding proof. It takes about 30 years to learn the difference, and I had spent every one of mine on the wrong kind. By 7, I had the back rows walked twice. Desert Lock rents 40 covered vehicle spaces along the rear fence. Boats mostly, a couple of horse trailers, 1 motorhome that has not moved since the Clinton administration. A parking space does not have a roll-up door, and it does not have a keypad of its own, which means a car can sleep inside a locked yard for a week without ever touching that gate. Space P12 had a fresh oil spot the size of a dinner plate. I pulled the file. Rented November 3rd. 6 months prepaid by money order. The contact number rang 4 times and dumped into a recording with no name on it, just a beep. "Nobody prepays 6 months on a parking space," I told Diesel. "Not in November, not in Reno." He looked at me like I was slow. Des Whitaker rolled in at 9 in a box truck with a cracked windshield and his phone already recording. "Bergstrom." He hopped down, grinning. "Say something for the people. They love you. They think you're a cowboy who hates joy. Turn that off." "Absolutely not." He swung the camera around the yard. "Folks, this is Desert Lock, and this man has never smiled on video. Walt, I need the list. What's going up on the 16th? 4 units. 4. He whistled. Numbers. 92, 117, 205, 314. Dez's face lit up like a slot machine. 314. Man, 314 is already all over the auction boards. My whole chest went cold. "Explain that to me, slowly." "You ran the legal ad right statute says you have to advertise a lien sale publicly before you can sell anything." He shrugged like this was weather. "So there's 4 or 5 of us who read those notices religiously. Some guys will drive 100 miles for a unit with a good story on it, and somebody put 314 on a picker forum Thursday night with a caption on it." "What caption?" He scrolled, then turned the screen toward me. "Nurse unit. 22 boxes visible. Owner motivated." I felt my pulse come up in my ears. "Who posted that?" "Account's 4 days old. No history, no sales, nothing." Des lowered the phone, and for the first time all morning he quit performing. "Walt, here's what's bugging me. You know what a legal ad actually says? Unit number, tenant name, sale date. That's the whole statute, name, number, date. So how does a guy on a forum know there's 22 boxes in there?" He tapped the screen hard enough to rock it. "You can't see inside a closed unit. I can't see inside a closed unit. Either somebody has been in that box or somebody stood there and watched her load it." The wind came off the fence line and went straight through my coat. "And how does the bidding work? Say it plain." "Plain. We cut the lock, we roll the door. Everybody looks from the doorway. Nobody steps in, nobody touches. Then we bid. Cash same-day winner has 48 hours to clear it out." He spread his hands. "There's no judge. There's no appeal. Highest number wins, and that door goes up in front of God and everybody. And anybody can bid. Anybody with a bidder number and a pulse." He climbed back up into the truck. "Anybody, Walt?" I skipped lunch and went into the back room where 31 years of paper lives in banker's boxes that smell like mildew and old rubber bands, and I started pulling files by last name. Kowalczyk. I found her in the 2nd box. Then I found her again in the 6th. I sat down right on the concrete with the folder open across my knees and my hands going numb. Unit 109. Signed 3 years and 2 months ago. 10 by 15 climate-controlled auto pay off a credit union account. Never late. Not 1 month. Not one time. I put that folder in my desk drawer and I ran the counter until closing, and I would love to tell you I thought about anything else. I sold 2 padlocks. I told a man in a Dodge that we do not prorate. All of it happened somewhere behind my eyes. At 11 that night, the office door opened and Rennie came in with her arms crossed hard against the cold. "Your light was on." She was shivering enough that her teeth clicked. I couldn't sleep, which is hilarious because that is all I do now, not sleep. "You're freezing." "I'm fine." "You're blue." I took my work coat off the hook, the old canvas one with the torn cuff, and put it around her shoulders. My hands stayed there a second longer than they needed to. Maybe 2. She went very still underneath them, and her eyes filled, and neither one of us was going to be the one to bring it up. "Thank you," she said, hoarse. "It smells like WD-40. It smells like somebody's still working." She laughed, and it came out shaky. "You have no idea how good that smells right now." She left at midnight. I gave it 20 minutes. Then I took the master key off the board and walked down row 1 to unit 109. A facility manager can open any unit for inspection. It is paragraph 9 of the rental agreement, and I have quoted it to 100 people over the years. Water intrusion, pest control, odor complaints, fully legal, fully documented, and I have never once used it for a reason that was mine. I stood in front of that door with the key in my fist and my heart slamming, and I thought about a woman who had been quietly paying for a second unit for 3 years and 2 months. 3 years. She filed for divorce 14 months ago. She had started building an exit 2 years before she ever asked for one. I put the key back in my pocket. "You looked." I spun around so fast I nearly went down in the gravel. Rennie stood at the mouth of the row in my coat with her arms wrapped around herself, and her face under that orange light was the loneliest thing I have ever seen. "Everybody looks eventually," she said, and her voice cracked in half. "I just thought you'd take longer." "I didn't open it," I said. "Key never went in the lock." "I watched you stand there for 2 minutes." Her breath came out white and ragged. "Do you know how long 2 minutes is when you're waiting to find out what somebody is? Then ask me the question instead of watching me." "Fine." She came 3 steps up the row and stopped chin shaking. "What were you going to do if you opened it?" "Nothing. That's the answer. I've had that key 31 years and I have never once used it on a paid-up unit, and 109 is paid up. It's the only unit in this yard that's never been late." Her whole face came apart at that, and she pressed the heel of her hand against her mouth. "Rennie." 6 o'clock, she said. "Office. Don't go down that row again. I'll bring it to you." She showed up at 5:50 with the steel box under her arm and set it on my desk the way you set down something that is still alive. "My mother's," she said. "She was a scrub nurse at St. Mary's for 26 years. That's a suture kit. Instruments, needle driver, silk." "Rennie, what's actually in it?" Her hands were shaking so hard she had to try the latch twice. "No instruments. A portable hard drive and a stack of paper about 1.5 inches thick, and both of them wrapped in a dish towel like they might get cold." "Sit down," she said. "Please, I need you sitting." I sat. "Gordon owns 3 offices, Sparks Fernley and the one on Keatskey." She spread the pages out with her fingertips like she hated touching them. "About 2.5 years ago, I picked up his tablet at the kitchen table because mine was upstairs. It was open to a billing portal, not a chart, billing. And you understood it." "Walt, I don't know a molar from a fence post." She laughed, and it came out wet and awful. "But I've spent 14 years in an operating room. Do you know what a nurse actually does all day, Forms? I document every instrument, every count, every minute. I can't tell you how to fill a cavity. I can absolutely tell you when a form is lying. Show me what lying looks like." She turned a page around. "Every one of these is a claim submitted to the state program. Medicaid. That's public money. It covers kids from low-income families, and dental is one of the biggest pieces of it. All right? This is a stainless steel crown on a 6-year-old, billed on a Tuesday in March." Her finger slid across. "This is the same 6-year-old, same tooth, same crown, billed again in June. A mistake. That's what I said for a month." Her voice climbed and cracked. "So I started pulling them. There are hundreds, Walt. Procedures on children that were billed and never done. Pulpotomies, extractions, sedation." "How do you know they were never done?" "Because the appointment books don't match the claims. There are days he billed 9 treatments in an afternoon. He wasn't even in the state." She was crying now, Not quietly, shoulders jumping. 41 of them are kids under 10. 41. I counted them so many times I see that number when I close my eyes. I got up and got her a paper towel because it was the only thing in that office resembling a tissue, and she took it and laughed and sobbed at the same time. 2 years, I said. You photographed these for 2 years. Every time he left the house, tablet, tablet, tablet. Her hands went flat on my desk to stop the shaking. Then I copied it all onto that drive and I put it in my mother's suture kit because he threw out her instruments in 2011, and he has never once looked in that box since. Rennie, why didn't you take this to somebody 2 years ago? Somebody would have paid attention. She looked up at me and her eyes were absolutely wrecked. Because 2 years ago my daughter hadn't gotten in yet. The heater kicked on behind me. That was the only sound in the room for a second. Say the rest of it, I said. There's a federal law, False Claims Act. She wiped her face with the back of her wrist. You can file as a private citizen on behalf of the government. It's called a quitam. It gets sealed, it sits with the Justice Department, it takes months, sometimes years. And the day it unseals, Gordon Vaughn is a criminal defendant and every dollar behind Bryn's tuition freezes. Her chin was trembling so hard she had to stop and breathe. She's in her first year. She'd lose the seat. She would know that her mother is the reason, and she already thinks I'm the one who blew up this family. So you sat on it. I sat on it, she said, and the words came out like something being pulled out of her. I let 41 kids be numbers on a page so my kid could stay in school. Say it. Somebody should say it out loud to me. I put my hand over both of hers on that desk. She did not pull away. She turned her palms up and held on so hard my knuckles ached, and we stayed like that while the light came up gray in the window, and neither one of us tried to make it into anything. 11 minutes. I know because the wall clock is right behind her head and I looked at it twice like a coward. I'm not going to say that to you, I told her. Somebody's going to. Then let it be somebody who hasn't watched you sleep in a metal box for 6 weeks. The gate buzzer went off. I turned to the monitor. A gray Suburban had pulled up nose into the office, and a tall man in a quarter zip was getting out with a cardboard tray in his hand, 2 coffees in it. He shut his door. He straightened his collar. Then he looked directly up into the camera lens, and he smiled at it, and he lifted one of those cups toward me like a toast. Rennie made a sound I have never heard a person make before. I got her into the back room with the door shut before he made it up the walk, and the last thing I saw was her hands clamped over her mouth to hold the sound in. The bell over the office door jingled like it was any Monday. Mr. Bergstrom. He set a coffee on my counter. I got you a black. You look like a black coffee man. I am. I'm also on the clock. Gordon Vaughn. He put his hand out and kept it out until I took it. Warm grip, dry palm, the kind of handshake they teach you. I own 3 dental practices in this valley. I am also unfortunately the reason a very good woman is currently sleeping in one of your units. That knocked me back a step and he watched it land. I'm not going to insult you, he said. I know she's in 314. I've known for about a month. Then you know she's 2 payments behind. I do, and I want you to understand I could write that check standing here. He said it gently like a diagnosis. She won't let me. Renata has a great deal of pride and not a great deal of judgment right now, and those 2 things together are how people get hurt. That's a lot of concern for a woman you're divorcing. 21 years, Mr. Bergstrom. His eyes went shiny right on cue, and I could not tell you to this day whether it was real. You don't stop worrying about somebody because a lawyer files paperwork. Diesel came out from behind the desk, and Gordon crouched down and scratched the exact spot behind his ear, the one it takes most people a year to find. Diesel, right, Ruth Ann told me. Great old dog. My skin went tight all the way up my back. 12 minutes, I said. That's what I've got. I'll take 8. He stood, brushed his knees. Renata was hospitalized for exhaustion in March. She has told several people that I've hidden money, that I've had her followed, that I've done things to my own patients. Our daughter has been on the phone with me at 2 in the morning crying, asking if her mother is safe to be around. You're telling me she's crazy. I'm telling you she is unwell and she is frightened, and that frightened people attach themselves very quickly to whoever is kind to them. He picked up his coffee. You have been very kind to her. I'm not being sarcastic, I'm grateful. But you're 57 and you live alone in an apartment attached to your workplace, and I'd hate for anybody to look at that arrangement and read it uncharitably. He smiled. I would hate that for you. That's all. He walked out. Not one word of it would have meant anything on a recording. Rennie came out of the back room shaking so hard she had to hold the door frame, and she was not crying anymore. That was somehow worse. "He touched my dog," I said. "He remembers everybody's dog." Marla called at 1:20. "Walt," her voice was wrong, "I need you to sit down and listen to the whole thing before you say anything. Go." Corporate got a written complaint Friday. It went to compliance, not to me, which means somebody knew exactly where to send it. Paper rustling. It alleges the facility manager at Desert Lock is permitting a tenant to reside in a unit has been observed providing that tenant with food and bedding and is engaged in a personal relationship with her. The floor felt a long way off. "Effective today, you're on unpaid administrative leave pending review. You keep the keys until they send somebody. You do not have authority over the sale." She took a breath. "Walt, the apartment is tied to the position. You have until Friday." "Marla, I know. 22 years I've worked for this company." "I know that too, and I fought about it for an hour and I lost." Her voice cracked, and Marla Sipes does not crack. "I'm emailing you the redacted complaint because I think you have a right to read what somebody said about you." I read it standing up 4 times. It ran 2 pages. It was organized. It had dates. And halfway down page 2 it said the manager had been observed after dark from the northwest corner of the property near the camera mounted on the corner of Building 4. I put the pages down and my ears started ringing. "Rennie, come look at this." I can't read that." "Read that one line." She read it. Her whole body went rigid. "There's no public view from that corner," I said. "That's inside the fence. You'd have to walk in past the office and stand between Building 4 and the wash. And you'd have to know that camera's there because it's painted the same color as the siding and nobody notices it. Nobody." "Bryn noticed it." Rennie's voice came out in a whisper. "She was 7. She asked me why there was a birdhouse on the building." Her hand went to her chest. "Walt, I brought her here. We rented 109 3 years ago. She helped me carry boxes." "Rennie?" "She wrote this." Her knees went and she sat straight down on the floor of my office. "My daughter wrote this. She wrote it because he sat her down and told her a 57-year-old man was taking advantage of her mother." I crouched in front of her. "Listen to me. She wrote this because she loves you." "That's worse." She was sobbing now, the ugly kind, the kind that comes up from underneath. "Don't you understand that's so much worse? He didn't turn her against me. He aimed her." I put my hands on her shoulders and she folded forward against my chest and I held her while she came apart on the floor of a storage office at 2 in the afternoon. We walked the back rows at 4 because she could not stand to be inside anymore. The wind came off the fence hard enough to make her stagger and her hair blew straight across her face and I reached up without thinking and pushed it back behind her ear. She stopped walking. She looked up at me with her eyes still swollen and her mouth slightly open, and neither one of us moved for about 3 seconds, and I have thought about those 3 seconds a great deal since. Then the office phone started ringing across the yard, the loud outdoor bell, and it rang and would not stop. It was corporate confirming the leave in writing. At 11 that night, I sat down to print the public sale list one last time, mostly out of habit, and I pulled up the county legal notices page. Desert Lock Storage. Lien sale. Units 92, 117, 205, 314. The date did not say the 16th. It said Thursday, November 13th. 10 in the morning, 3 days early. 2 days from now. Nobody moves an auction up 3 days by accident. You move it because you want somebody standing there with their hands empty. I was on 480 by 515 with the heater roaring and the sun not up yet, and Rennie was in the passenger seat with my coat over her knees like a blanket. "Say her name again," she said. "Alma Cortez, Regional Accounting. 30 years with the company. She's the only human being who can change a posted sale date. And you just show up at her office." "I'm on unpaid leave, Rennie. Showing up is the entire resume I've got left. Carson City Corporate is a beige building behind a tire shop. Gray carpet, fluorescent tubes, the smell of copy paper and burned coffee." She was at her desk at 6:50 in a cardigan with her glasses on a chain, and she looked up at me and did not act surprised for even 1 second. "Walter Bergstrom. You know who I am? I've signed your paycheck since 1996. She took her glasses off. "Sit down, both of you. You moved the sale." I did. I had a whole speech built. It fell straight out of my head. "You're not going to argue with me. Why would I argue about something I did on purpose?" She opened her bottom drawer and she did it slowly like a woman who had rehearsed it. "I have waited 11 years for somebody to walk in here and ask me that question. She put a folder on the desk, then another, then 6 more, and the stack came up past her coffee cup. "What is that?" Rennie said. "That is every unit in this district rented by a limited liability company since 2014. Rental applications, payment records, who signed, what address they used." Alma folded her hands. 91 units, 40 of them are shells. Same registered agents, same post office boxes, different names on the door. "You've been copying files for 11 years. "I've been keeping files for 11 years. There's a difference, and I want the difference on the record." Her chin came up. "In 2015, I flagged a customer in Fernley who was renting 4 climate-controlled units under 3 company names and paying with money orders. I put it in writing. I was told it was a billing question and not a compliance question, and that I should be careful about the word I was using." "Which word?" "Laundering." She said it flat. "So I stopped saying it and I started keeping copies. Every month. 11 years. Rennie leaned forward. "Why now? Why our unit?" Alma looked at her for a long moment, and her eyes got wet behind those glasses, and she took a breath that shook a little on the way in. "Because the company sold honey. Closing is Friday the 14th. She tapped the stack. "On Friday, every record in this district migrates to the buyer system, and their retention policy destroys anything on paper older than 5 years. All of this becomes a story I used to tell." "And a sale that already happened is a public record," I said. "A sale that already happened has a bidder list, a payment record, and about 100 witnesses." She almost smiled. "A sale scheduled for the 16th happens after I'm gone and after the paper is gone. So I moved it up to the last day. I still have a badge that opens this room." "You moved it 2 days before I found out." "I mailed the amended notice to the tenant of record on the 9th. Her voice went hard. "Certified mail, statutory requirement, and I have the receipt. Whether that woman had a mailbox to receive it in is not a thing this company asks." Rennie made a small broken sound and put her hand over her eyes. "I'm sorry," Alma said, and she meant it. "I did the math with a stranger's life in it. That is the truth, and I'll carry it." "Give me the bidder list," I said. She slid 1 page across. 4 registered bidders. Des Whitaker. A woman from Sparks who buys for a thrift chain. A man I did not know. And Sagebrush Holdings, LLC. My phone rang on the drive back, and Rennie put it on speaker with her thumb shaking. "This is Sabine Okafor, investigator, State Board of Dental Examiners. You left 3 messages." "Ma'am, I've got documentation of billing fraud against pediatric Medicaid patients." "Then I'll tell you exactly what I tell everybody." Her voice had no temperature at all. "The board licenses dentists. Billing fraud against a federal program belongs to the Medicaid Fraud Control Unit and possibly the Department of Justice. I can open a professional conduct file. That takes months, and it does not stop anything happening on a Thursday. He's about to buy the evidence at a public auction. Then you should call an attorney, Mr. Bergstrom, and you should stop calling me." A pause. Then 1 degree warmer. "Send it anyway. Certified. Keep your copy." We got back to the yard at 1. There was a voicemail on Rennie's phone from the hospital. Administrative leave pending review after a written concern about her fitness for duty. She listened to it twice, standing in the middle of row 3 under the light poles, and then her legs simply stopped working. I got to her before the gravel did. She grabbed 2 fistfuls of my shirt and screamed into my chest, and I mean screamed 14 years of operating rooms and 6 weeks of a folding cot coming out of her all at once, and her whole body was shaking and her knees kept going, and I just held on. "It's gone," she sobbed. "The house is gone, my daughter's gone, and now the only thing I was still good at is gone, Walt. What is left? Tell me what is left." "I'm here." My own voice was in pieces. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm right here." "Everybody says that." "I'm saying it standing up." Sleet started coming down sideways, and neither one of us moved. Over her shoulder, out past the chain link, a small blue car was parked on the shoulder of the frontage road. A young woman stood beside the open driver's door with a phone pressed to her ear, staring straight down row 3 at us. Even from that distance, I could see her shoulders jumping. She was crying so hard she could not get the words out. She was gone before I got the gate open. Blue car, Oregon plates, gravel spitting off the frontage road. But she had left something on top of the mailbox, weighted down with a rock so the wind would not take it. A plain envelope. No name on it. Rennie tore it open with her hands shaking so hard she ripped the flap in half. 2 pages stapled. The same complaint corporate had sent me, except this copy was not redacted. At the bottom in blue ink a signature, Bryn Marie Vaughn, and underneath it in ballpoint pressed so hard it went through the paper. I am sorry. I cannot say it to your face yet. I did not know he was going to use it to take a man's job. Rennie sat down on the bumper of my truck and cried in a way I had not heard from her yet without any anger in it at all. She drove down from Portland, she said. 8 hours, to leave it on a mailbox and run. She's 22. She's mine. Her voice broke wide open. She's mine, and she's out there on a highway alone thinking she ruined somebody's life. Then we make sure she didn't. I crouched in front of her. Rennie, who else knows those clinics from the inside? Somebody who's still got standing. She wiped her face with both hands and went very still, thinking. Hollis, she said. Silver Sage Care Center smells like disinfectant and plastic flowers, and somewhere underneath, somebody's chicken lunch. Hollis Vaughn was in a wheelchair by the window in room 14 with a blanket over his knees and a paperback Western upside down on the sill. He looked up and his whole face changed. Renata. His hands came out, both of them trembling badly. Oh, sweetheart, nobody would tell me where you went. She got down on her knees in front of that wheelchair and put her forehead against his hands and sobbed. I called 9 times, he said. Gordon told me you'd moved to Sacramento. I'm in a storage unit, Hollis. The old man's chin started going. You're in a what? Sir, I stayed by the door. Walt Bergstrom. I manage the facility. He's been feeding me, Rennie said, laughing and crying at once. He put a blanket in front of my door and walked away so I wouldn't have to look at anybody. Hollis Vaughn looked at me for about 4 seconds and something in his jaw locked. Tell me all of it, he said. I'm 81, not 9. So we told him. The 2 pieces of paper, the tablet, the billing portal, 41 children under 10. He did not interrupt one time. His hands shook harder and harder on the blanket, and by the end he had a fist in the wool. Say the number again, he said. 41 Hollis. I opened the Sparks office in 1979. His voice came out cracked and furious. I built that practice on Medicaid kids. Nobody else in this valley would take them. I taught that boy to count teeth. I did not teach him to count other people's children. He was crying now openly the way old men cry without covering any of it. Sir, I said, I have to ask you something practical. Ask. When you retired, did you sell out completely? 20%. He dragged a sleeve across his eyes. 20% of all 3 held in my name. He's been buying it back at a nickel a year and complaining about it. Then here's what I know. I pulled a chair over and sat down where he could see me. A minority owner in a professional corporation has inspection rights. You can demand the books. Statutory demand in writing, and the corporation has a set number of days to produce them. That includes billing records. And if he refuses, then a refusal is on paper with a date on it, and a refusal is its own kind of evidence. Hollis Vaughn put out his hand for a pen with his fingers shaking so hard I had to help him hold it. We wrote it in the day room on the back of an activities calendar and got a nurse and a physical therapist to witness the signature, and I photographed all 4 pages in the parking lot before we drove out. Rennie was quiet for the first 10 miles. Then she said, Sagebrush. What about it? Look it up. Nevada Secretary of State. Business entity search, it's free, anybody can pull it. I did it at a stoplight on Keatskey with the phone propped on the wheel. Sagebrush Holdings, LLC, formed 6 years ago. Registered agent, a law office downtown, and under managing member 1 name, Bryn Marie Vaughn. He put it in her name when she turned 18, Rennie whispered. For taxes. She signed a stack of things at the kitchen table. She didn't read any of it. She was 18, Walt. She was picking a college. Rennie, do you understand what that means? She was already understanding it. Her hand was over her mouth. The registered bidder on your unit is your daughter, I said. Not him. Legally, that entity is her, and a managing member can withdraw a bidder registration. He can't stop her. She's the only person on this earth who can pull it. We climbed up on the roof of the old dead container at the end of row 8 at sunset, the way I had 100 times alone, and Reno came on in pieces below us, 1 grid at a time. Are you scared? She said. Yes. Of tomorrow. No, I had to make myself say it. Of the day after. That it gets to Friday and you go and I get used to that again. I'm good at getting used to things, Rennie. It's the worst thing about me. She turned and took my face in both hands and kissed me. Not gently, like somebody deciding something. Then she put her forehead against mine, and both of us were shaking, and she was crying and laughing at the same time. "Walt," she said, "listen to me. I have to tell you what I'm going to do tomorrow. Some nights are longer than other nights. That one was 9 days long all by itself." "I'm not fighting it," she said. I sat back so fast the container roof boomed under me. "Say that again. Tomorrow at 10 that door goes up and I let it." Her voice was steady and her hands were not. "I don't call Bryn. I don't ask her to pull the registration. I don't ask her for anything. Rennie, she's the only one who can stop it." "I know. One phone call. One. She drove 8 hours to leave an apology on a mailbox. She's sitting somewhere on a highway right now waiting for somebody to tell her she's not a monster." "And what do I say?" She rounded on me and her eyes were streaming. "Hi, honey. It's the mother you haven't called since Labor Day. I need a favor and it's legal paperwork." "You say I need my daughter." That's the same sentence to her. She was screaming now out on a container roof at 7 o'clock at night, and her voice cracked and went to nothing. "Do you understand what he's built every single time I have ever needed something? It has cost that child something. The house cost her a mother. Tomorrow costs her a father. I am not doing it again. So you let a man buy the proof. There is no proof in that unit, Walt." I opened my mouth and nothing came out. She looked at me and her whole face was shaking. "I need you to trust me for 15 hours. That's the whole thing I'm asking." "Then tell me what's in 314. "No. Rennie. Because if you know, you'll act like you know." She grabbed my hand and held it against her chest so I could feel how hard her heart was going. "You're a terrible liar. You can't even sell a padlock without apologizing for the price." We climbed down and we fought the rest of the way across the yard, and it was the only time in 9 days either one of us raised a voice at the other. "I'm 57 years old," I said. "I have been fired. I have 2 days to move out, and you're telling me to go to bed. I'm telling you it's not your bill. It's already my bill." "That's exactly what I can't stand." She stopped dead in the middle of row 3 under the light pole. Her chin was shaking so hard she could barely shape the words. "You lost your job. You lost your home. Because you put a blanket in front of a door." I'd do it again. "I know you would." She was crying so hard now she had to grab the door of 290 to stay up. "That's the problem. I already let one man put a price on my life, and I said thank you, Walt. I signed it. I sat there and I signed it. I am not doing that to you. You don't get to protect me by leaving. Somebody in my life has to be allowed to walk away clean." I did not have an answer for that one. I still do not. She started emptying the unit at 9, not the boxes. She never touched the boxes. Just a duffel bag, a hairbrush, 3 sets of scrubs, a phone charger, a toothbrush, and a sandwich bag. "Where are you going to sleep?" "My car." "Rennie, it's going to be 19 degrees. "I've done 19. She zipped the bag. Her hands were shaking so badly it took her 3 tries. "Walt, if I'm inside that unit when they cut the lock tomorrow, it's a whole different kind of story on Des Whitaker's live feed. 'Woman found living in unit.' That's the headline. That's what everybody talks about." Her voice thinned out. "And then nobody looks at anything else. You've thought about this a while." "I've thought about tomorrow every day for 3 years. That landed somewhere under my ribs and stayed there. She stood in the doorway of a 10 by 10 with a duffel bag in her hand, and she looked back at those 22 boxes for a second, and then she pulled the strap. The door came down. Rolling steel makes exactly one sound. I've heard it about 1,000,000 times. That night it went through me like a shot. She snapped her own padlock on. Then she put her hand flat on the corrugation just for a second, the way you touch somebody's shoulder when you're leaving a hospital room. "Don't follow me out," she said. "Rennie, please." Her voice was in pieces. "I can't do this and look at you at the same time." "I'm sorry." She turned around in the middle of the row, wrecked mascara down to her jaw, and she laughed at me through it. "Don't apologize for that," she said. Then she was gone and the gate motor ran, and it was very cold. I did not sleep. I sat in that office with the lights off and Diesel's head on my boot, and I watched the sky over the fence line go from black to the color of dirty dishwater. At 4 in the morning I went out to walk the rows one last time, because that is what I have done every morning for 31 years, and I did not know how to stop on command. The steel thermos was sitting on the step outside the office door. I picked it up. It was hot. I stood there in the dark with a hot thermos in my hand and my pulse going like a hammer, and then I went inside and sat down and pulled up the gate log. Last 12 hours. Rennie's code out 9:41 at night. Then one more line and my hands went cold on the keyboard. Gate opened. 2:06 in the morning. Not her 314 code. The code on the account for Unit 109. A storage auction does not have a gavel. It has a pair of bolt cutters, a roll-up door, and about 100 people who came to look inside somebody's life. They started lining up at 9:15. Des had a tripod set up by row 3 with a ring light on it, which at 10 in the morning in Nevada is the most ridiculous thing you will ever see. 1,100 people watching, he said. Walt, 1,100. I do 40 on a good day. Turn it off, Des. Not a chance. Marla ran it because I was on leave and had no authority over anything, and I stood in the crowd like a customer in my own yard. Gordon came at 9:50 in a quarter zip and good shoes, and he did not bid himself. He stood at the back next to a young man with a clipboard, and every so often that young man raised one finger. Bryn stood at the fence line by Building 4. She did not come closer. She did not leave. She hasn't withdrawn it, I said to Rennie. I know. You could still call her. She's 40 feet away. Walt. Rennie's hands were shaking around a paper cup she had not drunk from. Watch. 92 went for 400. 117 went for 220. 205 went for 600 and change to the woman from Sparks. Then Marla put her hand on the door of 314 and the whole yard went tight. Unit 314, 10 by 10. Sold as his contents unknown cash today, cleared in 48 hours. The bolt cutters went through Rennie's padlock. Opening bid $100. The clipboard man's finger went up. 200, Des said. 500, the finger. 6. 2,000, the finger said, and the crowd made a noise. Des put both hands up and stepped back out of it, and he was not smiling anymore. It went to 5. It went to 9. At 11,000, somebody in the back said Jesus out loud. At 22,000, Marla stopped calling numbers with any rhythm and started just saying them flat like reading a chart. 35,000, the finger. 38, the finger. 41,000. Marla looked up. $41,000. Going once. Nobody breathed. Sold. 41,000 Sagebrush Holdings, LLC. Gordon buttoned his jacket. Open it, he said. Marla bent down, got both hands under the rail, and threw that door up so hard it rang. There was no hard drive. There were no files. There were 22 cardboard boxes stacked to the ceiling, and every single one of them had a strip of masking tape across the front with handwriting on it in black marker. Bryn Kindergarten. Bryn First Grade Art. Bryn 7th Grade Essays The Good Ones. Bryn Volleyball Freshman through Senior. Bryn Graduation. Somebody at the front said, "Oh my God," out loud, and then 100 people started talking at once, and every phone in that crowd came up. That's it. Gordon's voice cut across the row, and it was not smooth anymore. It was high. That's what's in there. Where is the rest of it? There is no rest of it, Rennie said. He turned around and found her in the crowd, and he actually took a step back. You spent $41,000, she said, and she was crying, and her voice did not shake one time, on the things you told me to throw away. Renata. 3 times. She walked forward, and people got out of her way. 2011, the garage. 2015, when we redid the den. 2019, you stood over the recycling bin and you watched me put the box in it and you said, "She's grown, honey, let it go." Her chin came up. I went out at 11 at night in my nightgown and I took it back out of the bin and I hid it. And I have been paying rent on our daughter's childhood every month since because you were going to throw it away and I was not. Bryn came through that crowd at a dead run. She dropped on her knees on the concrete in front of the first box and tore it open with both hands, and she came up holding a piece of construction paper with a crayon horse on it and a sun with a face. She looked at that horse, and she made a sound like something breaking in half. Mom. She was sobbing so hard she could not get up. Mom, you kept my horse. I kept everything, baby. Bryn turned around, still on her knees, and looked up at her father with that crayon horse in her fist. You told me she threw it out, she said. You told me she didn't want any of it. Gordon's face did something I have never seen a face do. It tried 3 different expressions and could not hold any of them. And that is when Rennie came through the crowd to me. She was wearing my canvas work coat with the torn cuff in front of 100 people and 4 cell phones and her ex-husband and her daughter, and she came right up beside me and took my hand and laced her fingers all the way through mine and held on. She did not say a word to any of them. She did not have to. Gordon looked at that coat. Then he looked at me, and he finally understood that he had been the only man in this yard who did not know what was happening. He turned to leave. A woman stepped in front of him. 50s gray suit badge on a lanyard, and a state investigator's flat, unbothered face. Dr. Vaughn, Sabine Okafor State Board of Dental Examiners. She held up a phone. I'm here as a courtesy. The Medicaid Fraud Control Unit has the actual file. I don't know what you're talking about. Then I'll be specific. She did not raise her voice at all. Do you have any ownership interest in Unit 109 at this facility? Because it's rented to Renata Kowalczyk, it's been current for 3 years and 2 months, and she opened it at 2:06 this morning. Gordon said nothing. She hand-delivered the contents to the Fraud Control Unit office on Keatsky at 8 o'clock, Okafor said. Doctor, they were waiting for her at the door. The crowd cleared out faster than I expected. People come to watch a door go up. They do not stay for what happens after. By 4 that afternoon, the yard was empty except for the boxes, and Bryn was sitting on the concrete apron with 3 of them open around her. Mr. Bergstrom. She scrubbed at her face with her sleeve. Can I ask you something ugly? Go ahead. Why did you help her? Her voice came out raw. You didn't get anything. You lost your job. You lost your apartment. Why would a person do that for a stranger? I sat down on the concrete next to a girl young enough to be my kid, and I told her the thing I had not said out loud to anybody in 9 days. I have a daughter, I said. Bryn went still. Corinne. She's 31. She lives in Boise. My throat closed, and I had to wait it out. Her mother and I split in 2009, and it got mean, and I said some things about Nancy in front of her that I would give both hands to take back now. Corinne was 22, same as you. What happened? She picked, same as you did. I looked down the row at that orange door standing open. And I let her. I told myself I was giving her space. 9 years, honey. She calls twice a year, and I let it ring because I don't know what my voice is supposed to sound like anymore. Bryn was crying again quietly this time. She called me Monday, I said. I sat there and I watched the phone do it. Why? Because I was scared she was calling to be done for good. I made myself say the whole thing. So I got up that same afternoon and I put a blanket in front of your mother's door instead. It's easier to be decent to somebody you don't owe anything to. That's the saddest thing anybody's ever told me. It's the truest thing I've got. I pulled out my wallet and worked the picture out of the sleeve, the one worn soft at the fold, a kid on a bicycle with a helmet too big for her. Call your mother tonight, I said. Not next month, tonight. Do not let it get to be 9 years, Bryn. 9 years goes by like nothing. It goes by like a Tuesday. She stood up and hugged me so hard my back popped, and she cried into my shirt the same way her mother had 2 days before, and I thought about how much of this life is just people needing somebody to hold still for a minute. Here is how it came out. The Fraud Control Unit had the files by 8 that Thursday morning because Rennie had called them in September, and they had told her what they tell everybody, which is, bring us documents, not feelings. Hollis Vaughn's inspection demand went out certified the same week. Gordon refused it in writing 11 days later, which turned out to be the single most expensive letter that man ever signed. The state board suspended his license in February pending the federal case. The federal case is still going. These things take years, and anybody who tells you different is selling something. Alma Cortez retired in December with a full pension and 8 boxes of paper that were never her property and somehow ended up exactly where they needed to be. The complaint against me got withdrawn in writing by the person who filed it. Corporate gave me the job back in January with back pay, which was very generous of them considering. Rennie was cleared and reinstated at the hospital in March. She works days now. She sleeps in a bed. And Bryn calls her mother on Sundays. It started at 10 minutes. It's up to an hour. It is April now. There is a kitchen table in a rented house in Sparks with 2 mugs on it and an old dog on the floor between our feet who has decided the new arrangement is acceptable because it involves more people to feed him. She comes past my chair with her coffee and kisses the top of my head on her way to the sink every morning like it costs nothing, and I have not gotten used to it, and I hope I never do. Here is what I know now that I did not know in November. We spend our whole lives deciding what is worth keeping. A man looked at 22 boxes and saw garbage, and he was so certain about it that he made his own daughter believe it, and then he stood in a gravel lot and paid $41,000 for it in front of everybody. That is what happens when you let somebody else decide what your life is worth. They will always price it low, and then one day they will find out what it actually costs, and they will pay it in public. Do not let the loudest person in the room hold the pricing. I think about that woman folding a blanket into a perfect square at 4 in the morning, so a stranger would know she was not the kind of person you throw away. She was not asking to be rescued. She never was. She was asking somebody to look at what she had been carrying and agree that it was worth carrying. That is all most of us are asking. If somebody in your life is carrying something heavy right now, you do not have to fix it. Put the coffee down by the door. Walk away. Let them keep their pride. It is more than enough. So let me ask you this. What is the one thing you have kept that other people told you to throw away, and what would you say to the person who told you to get rid of it? Tell me down in the comments. I read them and I mean that. And if this one got you anywhere near the heart, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe so you do not miss the next one, and I will see you down the road. The phone was face down on the table that morning in April. It buzzed once and I turned it over. Corinne.